Let me introduce our next panel, is elevating the role of a woman in the automotive industry. And the moderator is going to be the Inclusive Society Director of the Mexican Institute of Competitiveness, IMCO, Fátima Masse. Welcome to all of them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Welcome all of you to this panel that makes me very, very excited regarding elevating the role of women in the automotive industry. Welcome to those of you that are in person at the event, and also those that are watching us from your own home, if you are still doing home office like we are doing it right now. So thank you for being here. Let me tell you a little bit about the dynamic that we are going to have in this panel. I have prepared a few questions for our panelists. We're going to have a main responder and followed by a few comments from the rest of the panel. And if you have any question or observation or comment, please put it in the QR code so that we can address that question towards the end of the panel. So to begin with, let me tell you who is joining me in this exciting panel. And let me welcome Lorri Costew. She works at Ford Motor Company, and she is the Chief Diversity Officer and Director of People Strategy. Lorri, welcome.
Well, thank you. Very happy to be here.
Now let me introduce to you Carla Bailo. She works at the Center for Automotive Research. She is the President and CEO. Welcome, Carla.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to join everyone today.
And also I want to welcome Miguel Barbeyto. He's the President of Mazda Motor Mexico. Welcome, Miguel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Fátima, Lorri, Carla. It's an honor being here representing Mazda in Mexico. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, welcome all of you, and let's start. And I have this first question for you, Carla, because the automotive industry is mostly associated for men. For most people, or for some, this industry seems like an all-boys club with a very strong male culture that fosters sexism, discrimination, even unequal pay. But I want to ask you if this is still true, or this idea is still true, or if you think that things are changing.
Well, things have definitely changed. I started in the industry in 1978, and in that time frame, there was a lot of sexism rampant in the office, and that was just the ingrained culture. But as we've matured and more females and more underrepresented individuals have joined the different companies, and as just awareness of what we should and should not be doing from an inclusivity standpoint has become more prevalent, yes, it's begun to shift. So the old aura or mantra about it being, a guy-centered industry, old boys club, is starting to shift, but it's taken time. It's taken a good 20, 30 years to see it shift. Now, we're still not seeing the inroads we'd like. There was recently a study published by Deloitte, which still shows that over 1/3 of women are not feeling like they're being supported in the workplace. Their careers are not being supported. And likewise, there's a fair amount of belief that there is some inequality. So we're not making the inroads we'd like to see. We're not seeing the numbers come up like we'd like to see them. We are seeing great efforts now from the automotives just in the past few years with the creation of chief diversity officers, creation of really great human talent teams that are beginning to take a look at this data and really take it to heart and see what needs to change within the company, what needs to change about the way you hold meetings, about the way you conduct training. And because this, now we're seeing that diversity is really at the hub of innovation. And without diversity, be it gender, be it background, be it ethnicity, be it diversity of thought. Without that, the innovation can't happen. And today's automotive industry requires an innovation level that we've not seen before with the technology as rapidly as it's developing. So yes, we've seen change, drastic change over the last several years, but we're not seeing the numbers come up correspondingly. So what you talked about in the beginning, that notion of automotive, we need to dispel it, and we need to take serious actions to dispel that notion.
Thank you, Carla. Lorri, do you want to add something else from this perspective that Carla has?
It's I would agree with her. When I started at an engine plant in 1993, it was in the days, unfortunately, of catcalls and not a lot of psychological safety until I got to know people. And then once they got to know me, they knew I was really good at what I did. It quelled that. And I'd like to think that the person that followed me didn't have quite those same barriers, but it's still a long journey. There's still a lot of bias that's both, conscious that we can see it, and there's a lot that's unconscious. So we've absolutely come far, and there's still a ways to go. And panels like this are a great way to start opening the eyes, because, our lens of the world, our view of the world is shaped by the glasses we wear. And so when you've only been wearing one set of glasses, you don't know what the experiences of someone else are. So a panel like this is really about helping people put a new pair of glasses on for the moment and learn and have empathy for the experiences, in this case, of women in auto.
Thank you, Lorri. Miguel, do you think this is different in Mexico?
Let me tell you that I grew up with my mom, so I have the reference having a lady in my home. And since I started working back in 2001, I joined Mazda. And since then, I am seeing a lot of changes, not only in the automobile industry, but also in all industries. It's not new for me that the role of the women is really important, not only in business, but also in generally speaking. But yes, I'm seeing a lot of changes since then, in which the roles of the women are taking a lot of relevance in the automotive industry. For example, in Mazda de Mexico, 53% of our employees from a sales operations are women. 60% of the final line assembly in our Salamanca plant are women. 50% of my directors are women. So I trust in the women, and since 2000, women are developing some skills better than men, for sure, and they need to take a look on their development skills. That, which, by the way, I'm what I would like to say is that a woman is a multitask person. Men, it's kind of a different roles, but anyway. So I'm seeing a lot of changes since too many years ago.
Miguel, those statistics are making my heart beat so fast, because this is not only advanced countries. We're also talking about Mexico. So that's a very good news in the middle of this context that is changing. But Lorri, let me go back to you and ask you, what would it take to add more women to the automotive industry? Because we still have changes, right? We've seen better statistics, but there are still challenges. What do you think it takes to change this?
So Fátima, it's a great question. And there's multiple pieces to this question. because it's not going to change by wish management, because wish management doesn't work. You actually have to do the work. You have to put the time and the intention into it, because automotive is exciting. I mean, we're a technology companies. We're just not moving sheet metal anymore. And when you add to the fact that it's not just now about the vehicle, but the experiences that go with the vehicle, women make up a large percentage of the vehicle buying process as it is. We're making the decisions on the vehicle. And when you add the possibility of experiences that make our lives easier, time is like my most precious commodity. I think we really have something, and this is a really exciting time for women to come into the industry. We just need to do a much better job of selling it. And so some of the things that, that leaders in their companies can do right now is first talk to the women in your company and make it a safe space to do that. But talk to people, find out what is it that excites them, what makes them, gives them pause, what don't they like, what's keeping them there, what's making them think about leaving. Because you can get a lot of insights if you create that safe space to listen and really listen. Listen to your data. Look at your attrition data. Do you see more women leaving than men? Listen to your engagement data. Do you break out your engagement by gender to see who, are men feeling better than women? So just, do that listening. And then you need to make sure you create the right conditions. So, do everyone, but especially women, feel valued, respected? Are they heard in meetings, or are people talking over them? Do they physically feel safe? And then do they psychologically feel safe? And those are two, they're connected, but they're very different. So it's like those right conditions are what will have people feel whether they want to join your company, or more importantly, whether they're going to stay at your company. Then you need to look at your benefits and your support. So what flexibility do you offer? What kind of parental leave do you have? What kind of support structures? Do you have, an employee resource group for women at your company to give people a chance to have that voice? And then do you listen to that voice? Are you ensuring pay equity? Are you doing a study? And are you making pay adjustments when you find that there's disparities in pay? Are you ensuring that women have access to coaching and mentoring and sponsorship? Because if you look at, a lot of that happens informally, and it happens with people who look like us. So if your company is predominantly male, most likely they're coaching and mentoring males. So it's asking yourself, who am I mentoring? Who am I talking about? Who am I giving guidance to? And if that field is limited to one demographic or one background, you need to make some shifts there in what you're doing. And, I think one of the last pieces is, you've heard the phrase, you must see it to be it. So you need to have leaders in your company who are women. And I am so proud that Ford recently appointed a woman as president of Ford Mexico and director of our Puerto Rico, Central America, and Caribbean, right? Women need to be in leadership positions because that, when you go right back to the attraction, if I am coming to your company and I see a woman in charge, I'm going to be more inclined to believe I have a pathway. So, there's definitely structural and process things that really need to be attended to. And then leaders have to have that mindset shift, quite frankly, that they're embracing all.
Thank you, Lorri. That is so interesting. And how understanding how improving conditions for women later on is going to help their own companies to understand better women's perspective and how this can drive the innovation that Carla was talking about. Miguel, what do you think?
Too many things. The first one is that I think that women find herself in this constant struggle between equity and the rejection of diversity, opening the gap to new opportunities that allow there to develop their potentials. We don't want to limit ladies by labels or judgments for their gender, but recognize herself for the value they have as what they are they are women, okay? So the issue of including women in leadership positions is not only a matter of equity and gender. In my point of view, it must also be approached as a business and growth strategy in any single organization. It doesn't matter if it's automotive industry or not, but that's the way I think.
Thank you, Miguel. Carla, what else do you think it takes to add more women to the industry?
Well, I think we've had some great comments already. And, one of the things that I often say is the tone comes from the top. So the top has to exhibit those values that don't show any difference between men and women, that put women on the same playing field as their let's say competitive, in their competitive set. And for example, when we do succession planning and you look at each department, HR, purchasing, manufacturing, engineering, you need to look at the data for each one of those, and you need to look at that 5 to 10 year pipeline. And if you don't have a diverse pipeline out 3 years, 5 years, somebody needs to be raising a red flag and saying, this is unacceptable. You need to do something differently in your department. And we have to be sure that any bad behavior is recognized and dealt with. We need to act swiftly on that. There are still cases. In fact, I was just talking to an executive a few days ago who's experiencing some power harassment. And it's not just her, it's men too. This particular leader is harassing everyone equally, but it's been going on for months. You just can't let this happen. You have to step up and take care of this immediately when somebody raises a flag. If you don't, the entire management team is seen as guilty. So you really need to make sure you're setting the right tone, that you're taking the right actions, you're setting the right behaviors. The third thing I want to say, in addition to succession planning, is I think the automotive industry needs to get out and be talking to young girls and middle school girls about how great the automotive industry is. I mean, you look at what they get swamped with through social media. It's not about the technology of cars. It's not about self-driving cars. It's not about electrification and how that's really going to make a huge dent in our environmental issues as we seek to become, better from a carbon footprint perspective. You don't see that. You see a lot about fashion. You see a lot about movie stars. You see a lot of, things that are seen as sexy. But I mean, the car is darn sexy. And it's time that we start talking about it differently and really begin to attract more young girls and involve our team members in our companies to go out and talk to students, be it elementary, middle, high school. Get involved in your communities, get out there and talk about it. And once they understand, and bring them into your office if you need to, give them a tour, whatever, get them engaged. And then, then social media and word of mouth, it's amazing how quickly that can make a difference.
Carla, I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. And even I would say that when you do take that message about how amazing the industry is, it would also be good to tell girls that they can make it in the auto industry, right? That they can do it, because I study that from the education perspective, and there are so many barriers. We cannot deal with numbers. We wouldn't do anything that would be heavy lifting, but we can. So sure. We probably should be telling them that. Let me go with you, Miguel, because a lot of things that Carla was mentioning has to do with the culture within the organizations. So I would like to ask you, how ingrained is diversity and inclusion in your company's culture and values? You already gave us great numbers about how many women we have in different areas of the industry, but perhaps I would love to listen. What are you doing to change these values from the company to include more women?
Yes, for sure, Fátima. So again, I trust in women because too many things, and also all the culture is aligned with the values that the company has in Mexico. It's honesty, respect, empathy, collaboration, humility, passion, transparency, and these days the security and trust is really important. So I trust in women because they are capable to do too many things. I already mentioned. They are multitasks. They can develop too many things at the same time. So the 3 points to be able to organize as a woman is to develop as a mother, as a professional, and as a worker, which is really, really important, which men, again, we are not capable to do those too many things. We have young talent too in Mexico. Women, which is they are really, really, really young. 23 years old is the youngest lady that we have. So we have ladies in too many roles and positions: directors, managers, accounting, attorneys, sales operations, customer service, engineers. So we trust in women because they are very well-oriented in the automotive industry. One of my ladies that is the customer service and sales director was the former marketing, product, and pricing director. And when she stand out in front of the dealers talking about product, talking about pricing, the first approach back 5-7 years ago, the dealers say, "Hey, why a lady is talking about product, specifications, engine, durability, blah, blah, blah," because at the end it's a old boys school, as you mentioned at the beginning. But this lady put in front of the audience and explain in details in a very easy way to the audience. And after that, guys, dealers say, "Wow, this lady is really smart." And I said, "Hey guys, that's because ladies are more capable than us, because our paradigm says that position should be for a man, and it does not make sense anymore." So CEO could be a lady too, lawyer could be a lady too. So again, we are open to the young talent, to ladies. We are diversity. We are open to attract new generations. And the most important is to have a good mix between young and not young talent, ladies, men, diversity, whatever, because what we are expecting is to deliver good results to the company, to be a very profitable company, a good citizen company for the community in Mexico. So that's the way we think, Fátima. So I'm a very passionate. Again, I grew with my mom, with my sister. So I used to have two ladies in my home. So they learned to me that they are capable. So
that's great, Miguel. Thank you so much. Carla, how ingrained is this diversity and inclusion culture in your company?
Yeah, well, my company is very small. We're just an automotive nonprofit, but I want to revert back. I spent 25 years in industry, and what Lorri said earlier, I think, is so true. And then Miguel just kind of reinforced it. We need to stop looking at just your gender or just your ethnicity, and look at how knowledgeable you are, what you know and what you can offer, and really think about those capabilities. Because as Lorri rightly said, once she demonstrated her capabilities, then the cat calls stop, because they realize that you're unequal with them. Now, cat calls are never good, but in any case, I think we have to start looking at what they know and value what they know and what they bring to the table. And use that as a metric to really judge their performance versus looking at them and making assumptions. That also goes into succession planning discussions. So many times I've sat through succession planning discussions, and we have certain musts that somebody has to have for a position and certain we'd like to have this. And a male can check 3 or 4 of those boxes and still be recommended for the job. But a woman has to check them all. So we're not even judging promotability on the same scale, and we have to stop doing that and assume, oh, we know he can do it, but she's got to show she can do it. So we have to recognize potential And potential for anyone is potential, even if they haven't had the experience, and start to judge everybody on the same playing field based on what they know and those intrinsic potential values. Or we simply have to make it very clear in a metric perspective. The one thing here at the Center for Automotive Research, quite frankly, we have over 50% females. And on our board of directors, we have about 40% female and about 10% underrepresented minorities. And I've done that very purposefully to try to, ensure that we have that diversity of thought and to really help support the organization. Also, in our big conference that we hold every year that between 800 and 1,000 people join, and you will never see a man panel. You will see at least 1 to 2 women or persons of color on every single panel that we have. And there were a couple panels this year that were only females and on very highly technical matters. So, we're really trying to demonstrate, again, that knowledge in all of the events and in all of the research that we publish.
Thank you, Carla. Lorri, how ingrained is this culture in Ford?
Before I get to that, I want to build on one of the great things that Carla said around kind of the job descriptions. And when you look at the technology that's in our vehicles now compared to even 3, 4, or 5 years ago, I mean, it's a different industry. So your positions should not be looking the same. And so really, and it's tapping into where are we heading as a company? What are those skills? What is that customer experience lens that we need? What are those connected vehicle experiences that we can create if we do it better than anyone else is a competitive advantage. And when you look a lot of that, women innately have a much more of a customer, CX kind of headset to us. And so really it's every manager should be looking at their jobs to go, this is where we were today, but is that where we're going? And if not, you're not being forward thinking enough. But back on the culture piece, we are, like with many in the automotive industry, we're heavily male. And in the US, we are heavily Caucasian. And so we know everyone needs to come along this journey with us. So when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the definitions are very simple. If you have more than one person in a room, you have diversity. It's the different backgrounds and experiences that you bring. And equity is simply about giving people what they need. It's not a one size fits all, but what do they need to succeed? Inclusion is very simply, do people feel respected, valued, and heard when they're with you? But what we're tying together is a fourth concept called belonging. And so belonging sits in the intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's where we feel that we need everyone feeling like they belong, because this isn't a gender issue. This isn't a majority, non-majority issue. If you want your company to succeed, you need to have the right people in the room, and their voices need to be amplified and heard in order to deliver what needs to be delivered. So when we created our DEI North Star, it's very simple. Ford Motor Company is a family-owned company. So our North Star is we are family, we celebrate our differences, we all belong, because we need people belonging, we need people being allies to each other, recognizing that, quite frankly, we all have more similarities than we do differences. But it's those differences we really have to pay attention to, because that's where we're going to get that creative and innovative solutions that we need to drive our companies forward.
Thank you, Lorri. Before we continue, I just want to remind the audience to send your questions or comments so that we can talk about it towards the end of the panel. Lorri, I think you've set a very good framework on the importance of diversity and how you see it, or you are setting the objectives. But I want to talk about a more concrete strategy. I would really appreciate if you could walk us through your company's diversity and inclusion strategy, and perhaps a few specific actions that you're doing right now.
So if you think of it, think of kind of three, I'll say big buckets of work, because we have to look at this holistically. systemic issues take systemic solutions. So we have to look at this holistically. And so if you think the first bucket is you've got to understand your current state. So how are people feeling? What do your demographics look like? What are your policies? What are your parental leave policies? Like, what are your promotional policies and succession planning? And really from an end to end, look at your people processes to say, where do we have bias built in here? Because it happens. And many times you don't change policies for years, maybe decades. So taking a pause and really understanding, looking at your engagement survey, who's leaving, and who are you bringing into the company? If you're only attracting men, yet you're saying you want to bring in women, well, what's your recruiting strategy to do that? So it's really, understanding that current state. And for us in the US, that also includes a lens on racial equity. So we're looking at gender, we're looking at racial equity to make sure that where have we been, just kind of walking past, sometimes you see something for so long, you don't even see that there's something wrong. So really being intentional and looking at those policies. And then the second is governance and accountability, because this cannot be, they talk about the ice cream flavor of the day. This is not a flavor of the day. This has to be made sustainable. And so what is that governance and who's leading that governance? In our case, it's our CEO. Jim Farley is a passionate advocate of DEI and one of the biggest supporters I've ever seen in my 28 years at Ford. And so he's ensuring that there's objectives around this, that there's metrics around this, but we're looking at it in a holistic way. It's not just about diversity metrics or just about our pulse data. It's what's that holistic look and how is it driving the business? And so, those pieces are really important because otherwise, again, it stays wish management. You can't just say you're in favor of something without building it into your systems and processes. And the last one is what I call education and inspiration. So we have, if you think of a journey, if DEI is this journey, people are on different places. And my point as the chief diversity officer is, I don't care where you are on the road, on the journey, but you better be there. And then we're going to help you move through that. And so we've offered, a significant amount of courses, reading materials, thought-provoking book clubs. Like we really want people to learn, and we've structured our materials. So if you're just a beginner, right, in a certain topic, and then you're a little bit more aware, and then you're leading with action. So, we don't want to scare people away. We want to invite them in, but we want to provide those resources and information. And then we do events. So we're part of the CEO Action Pledge, great organization. We've had our Day of Understanding. Our first Day of Understanding was literally the week before COVID shut us down. So we had the opportunity to do in-person work, and we had listening sessions and ways for people to interact and in a high energy way, and highlighted the great work our employee resource groups do. And the recognition that people belong to many resource groups. I'm not just a woman, but I might be, from different areas. So highlighting all of that. And, in the US, we celebrated Black History Month. And right now we're in Hispanic Heritage Month. So we're trying to celebrate the backgrounds and educate and highlight whether it's a story. Unfortunately, being at home, we're not in the office for a lot of the celebrations we had in the past, but we're trying to be creative. And how do we still, a lot of fireside chats, a lot of panels, a lot of open dialogue. And that invites people in. And even if they're just listening, we're hoping that they're starting to, again, put a new pair of glasses on, even for that moment, in order to start gaining an empathy and appreciation for someone that's different than we are.
Thank you so much, Lorri. That was very interesting. Miguel, what is Mazda doing? A few actions to improve or add more women.
Yes, there are too many things that we are doing in Mexico. The first thing that we are doing is cascading and communicating to the dealers that, again, from a national sales company, we trust in women, but we need to cascade, educate dealers that also the relevance and the importance of the women is really important at the front of the dealerships. Not only general managers, technicians, why not? We have some technicians in some of our dealers in Mexico. So first and most important is communicate and educate the dealers too from this purpose. The other point that Lorri mentioned is that we are not just, when we are hiring people, it's not, we would like men or women from age from this and that. We drop that. So we would like to have people that have some skills, but in my point of view, and I mention the same, for me, it's more important the attitude rather than the aptitude. Okay, attitude is most important than the aptitude that the people have. So having good attitude, you can develop, learn too many things in too many areas. So that's basically what I'm saying to my HR department. So this is the most important. Young talent, having no experience, go attract, enter into the business, because it's much better having no idea about the business, learn about the company, learn about the market, learn about how many trends, because customer trends are totally different, not from too many years ago, from yesterday to today. So, and young talent, women are very capable from that regard. So too many things that we are developing in Mexico from this purpose. And also, let me add a supplemental comment. Most important is Japanese culture is really different in this diversity, you know. And what I'm trying to say to my boss and to the Japanese people is, women is really important, and the best example is in Mexico. So they need to start, and the company is starting hiring and developing ladies, because again, it's about culture. Japanese culture is really different from any other cultures from this point of view. And when they visit Mexico and they see a lot of women, hey, what happened here? You know, it's how in Mexico we used to have in the past to say hi with a kiss, and Japanese culture is no, go ahead, not touch me. You know, it's very different. But anyway.
That is so exciting that we are setting an example for the outside. I'm so proud. Carla, what is your company doing? You mentioned this different composition from the board, and that's great actually. But what else are you doing to add more women to your operations?
Yeah, I just, first I wanted to follow a little on Lorri's comment about really assessing the current state. I came into this company about 4 years ago, and the first thing that you have to do when you're really trying to assess your current state is listen, and listen to everyone. Don't talk. You know, let them speak 95% of the time, and you ask questions 5%. Don't make assumptions, don't make judgments, just listen. Because without understanding the current state, you cannot make the improvements that are needed. And everybody's viewpoint is really important. So if you really, and it will make you uncomfortable in a lot of different organizations, it will make you uncomfortable, the things that you hear. But unless you create that comfort zone and allow people to tell you honestly what they're thinking, you can't make things better. So I think that's the first thing that everybody needs to understand if they're really trying to tackle this wholeheartedly. The other thing that I took a look at were, again, all the policies that we had written. And we say our human capital is our most valuable asset in general. But if you read our policies, it was like, we don't trust you at all. You know, if you looked at our PTO policy, or if we looked at our evaluation policy, any of our policies, you looked at them and it was just, here's the policy, rule. And if you break the rule, this is what's going to happen. It wasn't, for PTO, just saying we value everyone here. We want you to take time off as you need, starting the policy with that kind of thought that really makes everybody feel valued is important. So take a look at that messaging that's coming out to your teams, that they are valued. I think this is really important. And that tone, again, comes from the top. So that's one of the things that I did. The other is we created an onboarding process. And at first it was just, you need to know this, and this. You need to know how our organization is. You need to know how to, record your time, blah, 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 blah. But we included within that onboarding process time for each person to talk to each manager. And we all take time out of our schedule to do that, to let them ask questions, to let them get to know us, to make sure they understand we have an open door. And that they're valued by us. So many times we get a new person come into our company and we have a corporate culture box and we say, I don't care if you're round or you're triangle, you're going to fit in that box. And it just absolutely destroys the culture from the beginning. You're not getting that diversity that you crave. So make sure that in your onboarding processes too, that you're really valuing diversity. And you're not trying to make everybody wear the company uniform, so to speak. And I know, Miguel, in a Japanese company, this is very difficult because I worked for a Japanese company for 25 years. So I understand well. But even in the US, we had to change things from the Japanese culture in order, to do business here. But really valuing that diversity and not trying to make everyone conform to your company. Let's just say your company way, because your company can have great objectives, but the way you get there and the way you value diversity can be much different.
This is really good, Carla. And this basically points out how important it is to treat staff as people and not only as workers, right? And that changes in so many dimensions, a lot of policies and things that you gotta do, even going beyond that point of inclusion and trying to understand the market better. I just want to remind the audience, please send your comments, please send your questions so that we can start addressing them after I go with this last question that I have prepared today. And so, Miguel, let me ask you, if your company has seen an impact on the business of this inclusion and a more diverse culture on the business performance. And another question is, how valuable is the commitment of the board and the senior management with all of these diversity and inclusion efforts?
Yes, Fátima, we are seeing tremendous progress on some metrics within the company since we start including more women in our headcount. In our business, the most important is the customer fascination, okay, from sales and service and the quality of our products. And ladies, again, are really, really, really outstanding on that because they are taking into details. Mazda is well known as passion for details, and women, and Fátima, Lorri, Carla, really well that women take care of those details that at the end we would like to see on a smile of a customer. From a quality perspective, from a product point of view, from a customer service, from a sales perspective. So we are seeing a lot of progress, and that means that since then we are in Mexico #1 brand from customer satisfaction indexes from sales and service. So we are seeing a lot of progress. And responding to your second question, how the senior management is seeing this, it's really important for me, telling the executives in Japan and telling the executives we report to the US and also to Japan, telling that the women are very capable, that young talent is very capable. So it's change of mindset in an automotive industry and in a Japanese culture. It's the double impact in my mind. But at the end, we are doing a great job. And I say we are doing because It's not only me, it's all my team, all the dealers, all the strategic partners. So again, it's really important to educate. It's a word that it's not men or women or create divisions. It's at the end, we are people, as Carla mentioned. We have some skills. We have the same goal. We need to make a profitable business. We would like to see smiles in our customers' faces. We would like to make progress every single year in order to attract more customers, blah, 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 to generate more employees in my beautiful Mexico. So everybody is singing the same song as of today. Too many things to do for sure, but I think that we are in the right path toward these tremendous changes that we are living these days.
That's great. Thank you, Miguel. Carla, Lorri, would you like to build up on that?
Sure. So I like to say there's a bottom-up approach that's very important. So when you talk about kind of that grassroots, your employee resource groups, your diversity councils, your passion employees, so important. But there's a saying that I love. It's leadership creates environment. So your top leaders need to be creating that environment that not only is DEI the right thing to do, it's how we're going to operate our company. And, you know, I've seen, it's not in the past that no one ever said it wasn't important. I think everyone recognizes it's important, but until you build it into your systems, your processes, how you're measuring, how you're accounting, building it into how you do business, that's when you really make it real. And, you know, that's where leadership steps in and ensures that, yeah, we are watching this. And in fact, you know, just like all companies, we have performance reviews and we call them partnership conversations. And we have actually crafted talking points for our leaders to say, as part of their partnership conversations, all right, how are you driving DEI within your teams? Are you looking at your action items? What progress are you making? Do you sponsor an employee resource group or a diversity council? Who do you mentor? Who are you advocating? What do your succession plans look like? So really those very tangible things that move the needle, but until you start asking those questions, they can just get forgotten in the normal course of business.
The only thing that I would like to add is I think it's important for you to demonstrate as a leader that you have a life too. I think it's important for leaders to sometimes call into a meeting and say, my child had a doctor appointment today and I'm the one taking them, or I'm leaving at 4:30 because I want to go to their soccer game, or, you know, I have a dinner with my mother, or I've got a mother who's sick in the nursing home and I need to go there. You know, they need to be vocal about these things to show that it's okay, because that really leads to a culture of understanding, people first. And it's that kind of culture that attracts all kinds of diverse folks. Men appreciate it too. I think many times we think that it's just women, but I have a number of men that work with me that are dealing with aging parents, dealing with young children, single fatherhood. I mean, there's a number of things that these policies, even though men in the past have been afraid to talk about it, they're dealing with it. And during the pandemic, fortunately, it's all come out. I think we know more about our people than we did before, now that their lives have been intertwined with what we see on a daily basis. But really, you know, taking all of that to heart and demonstrating that it's okay to be in this industry and have a life, because that's one of the main things you see in surveys from women in the business or thinking about the business. You can't have a life and be in automotive. And yeah, there are times you make choices when you become an executive. That's part of being an executive. But I can tell you, being a woman in automotive for 42 years now with 4 children and now 7 grandchildren, I am blending my life and have for years. You have to be a whole person. And the companies have always been supportive of that.
That is so important, Carla. We need to humanize work in all industries, actually, that's not only in this one, but to understand that life is happening at the same time as work. And sometimes one messes the other, but it's okay because you can make it up later. That's so important. So we already have a few questions from the audience. Please, we still have time. Use the QR code to send us more questions. But we are having a lot of participation from the audience already. So if you think it's okay, we still have a few minutes, a little more than 10 minutes. So I'm gonna throw the questions, and please jump in depending on how comfortable you feel with that question. So let me go with the first one and this is something that has come up a little bit in your interventions, but the industry isn't all about just engineering and selling cars. There's a huge breadth of related career prospects, from marketing to finance to driving to design. So where in the industry can we find more women? And if you think there's a stereotype or a gender tendency where we can find more women than in other areas.
Well, I can take that one first. So you can't recruit at the same places if you want a different outcome. So it's really taking a look at where are you recruiting from, not just the schools, but the professional organizations. So when you need tech talent, there's professional organizations like Grace Hopper, for example, SWE. Like there's a lot of great organizations that have fantastic talent. But in this whole virtual world, you can open it up. We've done a lot using a virtual platform to find talent that wants to find us. And so we're just being very, very intentional about where we're going and making sure that when we do go to some of the same schools, because there's a lot of great schools we do want to continue to go to, but it's not just about standing, in the front of their campus, in front of a Mustang, which is not a bad thing to do, but it's also talking to their SWE chapters, their professional women's engineering chapters, or their women in finance chapters, depending what you're looking for. But you're totally right. As you think of the transformation, we never had something called UX before, the last several years, the importance of design thinking. So there's these brand new areas now that we're hiring for, brand new skills. And so you really have an opportunity to think very differently and then action those decisions from a recruiting perspective.
Thank you, Lorri. I don't know if Miguel, Carla want to add something.
Yeah, I would like to just carry on a little bit more about all of the cool areas that are in automotive today, and probably where you're actually able to see women's influence into so many things today. For example, and Lorri brought up UX, the human-machine interface. I remember when those systems were first developed, they were the most complained about systems ever. And I'm an engineer, and it even annoyed me to have to do 6 different things to be able to change my climate control. So the mantra of keep it simple, keep it easy for the user, it doesn't have to be complex to be cool. It needs to be simple. So I think women have played a huge role in improving the operational capabilities in the human-machine interface. The other area is one of voice recognition and artificial intelligence. We all know that most voice recognition systems don't like women's voices. They like men's voices because that's what they've been trained to learn. So now that I can see every vehicle that I get into, it's getting better. It can understand me at least almost as much as it can understand my spouse. So, really getting the influence of these different voices. Plus now we have, all the different accents that are coming into play in a diversity world. So now you can use different accents and the car can still understand you. But, all of these neat technologies are coming into the vehicle. It really isn't something that we drive from A to B anymore. Yes, taking a vehicle out to college campuses is neat, but over 25% of people today do not test drive a car before they buy it. They make sure it has Apple CarPlay, but they don't care how it drives. So we have to be recruiting a whole different kind of person in our industry.
That's very interesting. We have another question, and I really like this question, and I want to listen to your opinions. It says, what advice would you give to women working or interested in joining the automotive industry?
I can take that, if may I, ladies?
Sure.
Send to Mazda de Mexico their resumes, and that's it. So we are open, ladies. So it's just to put in front of the screen or put in front of an executive or not a manager and say and sell the skills they have, the enthusiasm that they have. So it's, for me, it's really simple because, again, I grew up with my mom and sister, and for me it's natural. But just put in front of the HR people, men, women, executives, blah blah blah, and say, hey, I would like to work in this company because of this. I am very enthusiastic. It's very easy. That helps me when I joined Mazda 16 years ago. So it's very simple in my point of view, but send us the resume for Mazda, makes it open to hire new talent and ladies.
That's great. I don't know, Lorri, Carla, would you like to compliment? Because I think this one is important. We want to talk to the young talent in the industry or probably thinking about joining.
Yeah, there's a lot. So in fact, we're hosting, because it used to be, you'd have a job requisition open. And so the only time you would do is, I just want to marry you, right? I'm going to give you a job. But instead, we're trying to date people more. We want to court them. We want them to get to know us, because it's just as much a decision to come our direction as for us to hire someone. So we're trying to do a lot more information sharing. This is who Ford is. This is what we stand for. This is our purpose. These are the kind of roles we have. And so we're doing events where we have, we're women employees. We'll talk to women candidates, and we have other events that we'll have our Hispanic employees talking to Hispanic candidates. So people can say, what's it really like? And get the real scoop. And some of the comments we've made were, we did one group the LGBTQ community. And she said, I never in a million years would have even thought to go automotive. But now I hear how Ford is, and I'm going to apply, right? But it's that connection. It's that human connection that people crave and need. And the companies that figure out how to do that best are going to really get the best talent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Lorri just said. And one thing that we do here at CAR, I always have between 3 and 5 student interns working with us, and everything from economics through engineering, and even some that are in HR, because workforce is a huge issue in the industry today. And one of the common themes I often hear at the end of their time with us, be it a summer internship, I always have lunch with the kids at the end of their internship. And they often say, I never thought the automotive industry would be something I'd want to work in, but after working here for the summer, it's on my list. So the more we can do that, bring in interns, bring in students, let them work on projects in university with you to really see the cool things that are happening, the more we can bring them in. I mean, if they've already got an interest, you've got, 3 steps above everybody else. But I think we need to expand that pool of those who have an interest by going out and doing more with young people. I know I volunteer many times to lead robotics teams, and I volunteered to work with a team at an all-girls Catholic school. And I would go there every week, and I would say most of the time, they already knew how to make this robot. They didn't need me for that. It was more advice about what classes I should take. Or one of my favorite questions was, I don't really like math. Can I be an engineer? And I kind of swallowed deeply and said, that's going to be a tough one. But, just getting out and talking and showing them what's available makes a huge difference. Bring them into your company. I love what Ford is doing. That is so right. Let them try it on.
Well, this is great. Thank you, Carla. We have a couple of minutes just to close. So I would like for you to give me one sentence of a main takeaway that you want to give the audience. Truly, we just have 2 minutes. So make it a sentence and so that we can close on time. I don't know. Should we start with you, Miguel?
Oh, ladies first, if they want. Okay, let me. Again, first, thank you for the invitation. And in one sentence, I think that the roles that men and women have today are the same. Men should take care of their sons or daughters as well as women. Men can work in a big company as CEO, same as women. Our home activities can do by men or by women. It's in my own way of thinking. So the roles are the same. Unfortunately, these days, there are a lot of stereotypes in every single country in this crazy world. However, we as leaders need to push people to be on the right direction, that everybody can do the same. It doesn't matter if it's a man, women, young talent, not all young talent. So whomever it is, they can do the best work for this world, for the benefit of the community, and for the better of the company. So thank you, Fátima.
Thank you, Miguel, for joining us today. Lorri, Carla.
Right.
Lorri.
Sure. So, be intentional, put on a different pair of glasses to learn, to understand, because you'll find a lot of the improvements you can make aren't going to cost you money, but will end up making you a lot of money if you get this right. Because it's all about creativity, innovation, leveraging these different perspectives, and letting people thrive at work. And when you have women thriving at work, you're going to have everybody thriving at work.
Thank you, Lorri. Thank you for joining us. Carla.
Yeah, thank you. First, recognize your own biases. Recognize where you may be making judgments without really listening and understanding. Second, listen. Make sure that you understand your corporate culture, because if you don't, you can't then fix it. And then once you understand it, make sure that everybody's on the same playing field and that you're treating people as individuals, not based on any stereotype that you may have in your brain. And only by, consciously understanding where you are, can you make a difference culturally in the whole company.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for joining us.